Hey there, it's Andre the Impulsive Thinker. Today I have Steve Sims, who is, you know what, he's Steve Sims. There's really no other description to allow that. But we will have to explain that, he's the author of Blue Fishing, which is the art of making things happen, and recently Go for Stupid, the art of achieving ridiculous goals, and the host of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast, which I completely recommend you have a listen. I'll put the links in the show notes for you. So, Steve, thank you for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I know you don't like this terminology, but you're the founder of Bluefish, which is a high-end concierge service. You don't want to give your spin on it. Just basically, what I understand is you just make shit happen.
Well, I used to. I actually sold the company recently. But for 25 plus years, 26, 27, I was the Mr. Fix-It for people with really big checkbooks. So they would come to me to get things done. And along the way, someone said, "Oh, you're like a concierge." And I was like, "Really?" So I was like the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with really big checkbooks.
Oh, that's good. I really like that. Yes, I've been a fan of your podcast for a couple of years now, but you were on my buddy's podcast called Bettering the Pond Pondcast with my friend Warren Barry.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff you talked on there that I thought was very important for my listeners to have a conversation, because for me, going for stupid just makes a lot of sense for me.
Yeah.
But like, to me, I always said the worst they can say is no. So why not ask? And it sounds like with your story, and maybe get a little bit of a background of your story, because it sounds like both of us and most of our listeners, we've been misunderstood by many people for a long time.
It's a funny old thing that when you get a bunch of, we were just talking about this beforehand, you can have people from different sides of the planet, from different industries, from different sandpits, from different economic backgrounds, but we all share this common thread. And 9 times out of 10 is the fact that we're pissed off and aggravated. Now, I was pissed off and aggravated when I was a bricklayer in East London, and I couldn't work out why. I was working hard. I was working 20 hours a day, but I was still broke.
Right.
How come I don't have money? How come I don't have connections? How come life's not easy for me? And I went out to try and find a way to make it happen. And we didn't have podcasts in the 90s. I reckon if we had, I would have just started a podcast. But I went out to try and associate myself with really affluent people to quite simply go, hey, how come you're rich and I'm not? How come you're making bread? How come you've got relationships? How come you could? So that's what I did. Now, if it meant that I had to get you a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, or shut down a museum, or get you married in the Vatican by the Pope, then hey, so be it. I only ever did those things to get an hour's conversation with some of the most powerful people on the planet. And I did really, really well at that. But I noticed that a lot of people, they think they're aggravated, but they're happy to settle. Us entrepreneurs, we're not. We don't like to settle until we feel as though we're there. And like all entrepreneurs, you get close to there and your standards go up. Right. And that's just a way that you never quite achieve the goalpost. But I had noticed all of the people that we revere in the world start off with ridiculous goals, stupid goals. And we've all heard of the BHAGs and all this kind of stuff. And everyone that we revere, whether it be Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, anyone in between, they had these ridiculous ideas. Hey, I'm going to get the world of computing in this box. I'm going to get your music library here. I'm going to get you into solar paneled cars, all of these kind of things that we laughed at and mocked that we now revere. So I'm saying, hey, don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the people that don't want to do anything. Don't listen to the crabs in your life. If you want to stand out, stand up and be prepared to have stupid goals that if they're not being laughed at, they're not ridiculous enough.
Oh, you're saying, so if it's not funny to someone else, it's not big enough.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll tell you a quick story. I know we don't have a lot of time, but a friend of mine, my boy Jay Abraham, I went down there because I had this brilliant concept that I wanted him to look over. And I went down there and it was the first time in my life I'd ever done like a PowerPoint presentation. Right. But I wanted to impress Jay. And I showed him this entire presentation. I'd rehearsed it, got to the end of it, and I went, and there you go. Where do we go from here? And he looked at me, rubbed his beard, and he went, do you know, Steve, I was just expecting more. Oh. I was like, shit. And I went, yeah, what do you mean? He's like, well, with your credibility, with your credentials, with your contacts, I don't know. I would have expected this from someone else, but from you, I was expecting more. So the point today is you need to have people that challenge you. No one wants cheerleaders. Cheerleaders look great jumping around in a short skirt, but other than that, waste of fucking time. You want people that challenge you to up your game, up your standards, up your circle. And the first person that needs to challenge you is you. And that's the problem I find with a lot of people today. They're quite happy to settle, and then they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. It's because they've been quite happy to concrete their feet in the dirt.
But if you're not people challenging you, that means you got to work. You got to start working on yourself and maybe admit that you don't know something, or that's tough work. Not a lot of people can handle that.
I reckon, yeah, I ride motorcycles. And if there was a little camera inside one of these motorcycle helmets, I think there'd be a big chance of me getting locked up. I talk to myself. And the funny thing is, talking to yourself, you just laughed at me. Okay. So if I say to you, oh, I talk to myself, people would think, well, that's silly. That's ridiculous. But how many times do we talk ourselves out of something? How many times do we go, hey, I want to go and do this? And that little doubt comes up in the back of your mind going, hang on a minute, boy. Should you? Could you? Really? Is that? And we listen to him. So you laugh at me for talking to myself and talking myself up, but you don't laugh at me about that doubt stopping me from going forward, because you're used to those conversations.
Right.
You're used to that doubting Thomas going, hey, you shouldn't be at this table. You don't belong with these heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Well, when you start talking to yourself, you say things, why shouldn't I be at this table? Why shouldn't I be having this conversation? Why shouldn't I be demanding more? So, you know, we laugh at ourselves for talking to ourselves, but I think we should be laughing at ourselves for not.
Right. And also we deserve. Why do I not deserve to be at that table?
Bingo.
I think
boom,
that's a big thing also. Now, point of information. I wasn't laughing at you because of that. I was laughing at you because I get it.
Look,
I picked my way through things too.
I picked on you for the response, but you know, a lot of people will find the idea of you talking to yourself crazy.
Right.
But I want to get the whole of me and all of my doubt and all of my nerves and all of my apprehension. I want to get us all working for the same goalpost. So I want to have that conversation with my little me army to get us all working in the same direction and not against each other.
Right. And that's a good point. Like, we got to accept each other. And by doing that, we can accept each other and value each other's differences as well. Right. Yeah, it might sound silly to some people, but, you know, to me, it made sense. And what's wrong with, I don't know, I stopped caring what people thought. If I look silly, that's good. As long as I'm having a good time, fuck everyone else.
Do you know that? And that's a scary point. And shallow plug, you know, Go for Stupid was born out of the aggravation of people today being scared to do what they want to do, not for fear of failing, but for fear of people laughing at them.
Right.
You see, today, we've got a number of monikers that are thrown around. We've all heard of fake news. Well, we've all heard of the cancel culture. It's almost like an Olympic sport where we're trying to find something you say, take it out of context, and then cancel, nuke your career about it, and really gives a shit. You know, today we should be having more conversations where we don't care about what we're saying. We care that we're not saying. We need to have conversations, not be running away from it.
No, and that's one thing I've been telling a lot of my listeners and the other, you know, ADHD entrepreneurs I work with is, you know, I give vocabulary to people's strengths and abilities. And, you know, as long as you can communicate and advocate for yourself why I talk to myself or why I need certain things in a certain way, you know, that's communicating and educating yourselves, and less people can shit on you and judge you. That's a big thing too, is not only with self-judging ourselves with this little army of not being able to sit at the table with these good, smart people. It's, you know, laughing at everyone else. So Going for Stupid, I want to go more into this because when I saw that title, you know, it just made a hell of a lot of sense with me, because another mantra I have is, well, I think I already said, there might be repeat, but I forget now, but I'm going to say it anyways, is, you know, I tend to ask, the worst thing they can say is no. And if they say no, I ask, why? What's in the way of that no to become a yes?
Yeah.
So is that along the same lines of going for stupid, or is this a little bit something different?
Part of that is the element. Right at the beginning of COVID, I rejoiced. And not because, we didn't know what was going on with COVID. We all just got told we were indoors. We didn't know how it was going to affect her, and many people were going to lose their lives. But when we were told to stay home, I was like, yes, no more flying, no more traveling. I get to stay at home with my family. I rejoiced because all of a sudden I recognized it, like all entrepreneurs do. We recognize opportunity. I recognized it that I had more time. Now I can make more money. I can get more clients. I can do X, Y, Z, but nobody yet can produce more time. Absolutely nobody. So all of a sudden COVID gave me two things. I wasn't traveling, so I could do more with my day. But get this, anyone I wanted to connect with, I knew for a fact they weren't traveling either.
Right.
So it's not a case of, oh, Billy's out of the office. Oh, Mary, she's on a business trip in Japan. Oh, Roger won't be back. No, I know you're sitting at home on your ass doing nothing. You can talk to me. So I suddenly started getting all of the connections I wanted. And I'm like, and this is fantastic. The world must be loving it. And then you go on Facebook and people are like, well, I finished binge watching The Sopranos.
Yeah.
How else can I waste my life?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding? We've been given this time. And then on top of that, whoa, that's when fake news, the gotcha society, the cancel culture. And I thought, Jesus, aren't we bad people? Aren't we hot as a society? When we should be connecting with each other, we're actually now fighting. What a bad environment. And I suddenly decided to challenge myself to prove that society was bad today, and yet we were good in the past. And I was wrong. We've always been pricks. Anyone that ever dared to stand up and do anything different, whether it be Ford, Edison, Walt Disney, anybody that ever dared to do anything, Tesla was classed as
even
crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus, but there's the classic.
Yeah.
Standing out, let's stone him.
Julius Caesar.
The
whatever.
classic.
Yeah.
The classic is that as people, we don't like people standing out. Yet, once they have, oh my God, they're demigods. People are talking about, Steve Jobs, Henry Ford, Walt Disney, people that were protested against, we're now revering as like major world changers. And we're looking at it now. But today, we throw stones at anyone that stands up. And so I noticed that we're not bad today. We've always been bad. It's just that today we can get our message out of hate really, really quick because of social platforms.
Yeah.
And it started to get me to write. First of all, it started off as memes, then blogs, and a few people went, you need to get this off your chest. You need to write a book. So I researched some of the greatest people that we revere today who were attacked then. And then I went through the mechanics and the mentality of going for stupid goals and daring to create and to dream and to fantasize where you want to be, and then solidify those with a target, and then backtrack what's necessary to hit that target. I want a movement where people dare to go for those audacious goals. I want them to go for a goal where the rest of the little coffee room is going, oh, Johnny, don't be stupid. And then I want you to do it, achieve it, buy everyone a coffee, and then never talk to them again. That's what I wanted. And I launched the book. I hated writing the first book. I'll be blunt with you. I thought I'm a one and done because it changes you inside. Writing a book is like a therapy session on you, by you. It's quite tiring. Anyone that's read a book knows what I'm talking about. So when I wrote my one book, Blue Fishing, I was like, I'm done. Never doing another one. When the time came and I had to write Go for Stupid, same kind of scenario. I'm sitting here now going, there'll never be a third, until I'm pissed off, and then there probably will be a third.
Pissed off. But the common thing I've heard too is every time change is being initiated by someone, that's when everyone else shits on them and resists them until that change is accepted, and then they're revered.
Well, here's the daft thing. Everyone hates the new facelift of a new car until they slowly love it, okay? That's why when you've got a recording artist that records a tune and there's like a steady, and you can Google this, there's like a repetitive beat in the music, and all they do is change the tempo and the words, and all of a sudden it's on the next one and the next one. You know, people like The Weeknd, the people like the Spice Girls, even the Beatles, a lot of it was repetition. And they love that, you know, it could be a guitar lick, whatever, but they feel comfortable in that repetition. The second the group, the designer, the brand, the celebrity does something different, they go, oh, you know, I like the old days. I preferred that. We don't do well with change. And here's the last bit before I finish my rant on this. We are changing. And what is happening is we are forcing ourselves to desire the latest. You know, we've got squirrel mentality, you know, but we want the latest iPhone, you know, and it's opposite to what I'm saying now. We want the latest iPhone. We want the latest gadget. We want the latest Zap app, whatever it is. Our desire to consume has grown at an exponential level, but our ability to retain has not. So we've got way too much information without the ability to actually action it, which means that we've got too much information, which equals no information. It's a horrible circle.
Well, that gives, just what you said there, gives a whole different way of looking at ChatGPT and AI at that time too. So that's a whole different concept and another whiskey.
Well, the
talk.
ChatGPT is newspapers. Yeah, it's radio. It's TV. It's the electric switch. It's just the latest disruptor. Okay. And what will happen in I don't know, 6 months time? There'll be a new thing, you know? It's like when Betamax and VHS came across. One of them had to die. So everyone's kind of like going, oh my God, this is it. No, this is it for today.
For today.
You know? What's the next disruption?
Yeah, cassette to CDs and then to DVDs and then to
there you go.
You know,
yeah,
SD
exactly.
cards.
It's just another disruption.
Yeah. So to go for stupid, how do you recommend to the listeners what's the next step? If we're going to go for stupid, what do we do?
All right, well, we start fantasizing and dreaming. A lot of people find this a bit silly. See, we read a lot of books on how to do things, but we don't read books on how to dream. I have a policy. I love reading books, and I read on a trio, which means I do 2 business books, usually a tactical and a biography, and then some kind of fantasy, drama, crime book to get me. Yes, something to get me dreaming. I'm just finishing the Dragon Tattoo trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I love the Dan Browns and all those kind of, who is it? You know, where is it? The Agatha Christie kind of like sleuthy kind of stuff. You've got to dream it and then solidify it and backtrack to where you are today. The trouble is a lot of us today go, well, that's a little bit, I know I can achieve that, so I'm going to go for that. Now I'm going to break it to you. Most goals you go for, you're going to fail. But you are going to fail 500 steps further than if you would have gone for something that you could have achieved.
As long as you learn from each of those failures.
How can you fail where you're already 2 miles ahead of the game?
Right, exactly.
You know, every time I've never achieved something, I'm way ahead of where I would have settled for.
Right, so measuring backwards. Yeah.
You cannot fail. And of course, and then something else happens, which is scary. You suddenly start getting it. You start having these ridiculous goals of, right, I'm going to do this in a month. I'm going to get this to work with me. I'm going to get a dinner date with so-and-so. And they start happening. Why? Because your body and your head has been trained to go for it. And then there's just this pure ignorance of it going any other way than the way you've just visioned it, and it ends up coming off. It's ridiculous when that stuff starts to happen. Some of the things that I pulled off, I sit there and I go, how the hell did I pull this off? And it's because I dared to ask, which brings us back to the thread that you said, dare to ask. And there's also a lot of that in this book as well.
Yeah. And then the other thing, you really spent some time talking about building your own sandbox. And that resonated a little bit with me. Like I kind of look at it, my engineering company I have here, and then now Tactical Breakthroughs. This is my game, my rules, right? why do we set up a company like Dan Solomon would say? A lot of entrepreneurs set up a company that they can do what they want to do, but they actually set up rules for them to fail at their own game.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. The trouble is we listen to here's where I get cancelled.
Yeah.
We listen to poor mentality.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I say poor mentality, you have the choice to have an affluent mentality or a poor mentality. A lot of people, like it or not, they like to be poor. They like to be able to wallow in their own self-pity.
Yeah.
They like to not try because if they try, they fail, it hurts, they don't want to do it. So in which case, this poor mentality will come out and reach out, and negativity loves negativity. So if I can hold you back from achieving your goals, well,
Right.
I've done a really good job here, you know? Yeah. And so there's a lot of people with that mentality that you're building your sandpit. Are the people in your sandpit challenging you like Jay did me?
Right.
Or are they there just to turn around and go, Andre, you know, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, and trying to suck you down to that level of conformity? That's when you build your own sandpit and go, I need to build an A-class army. I need to build the Navy SEALs of my family, my relationships, my business. I need to be the A-list of this, and then focus on that.
Yeah. And then what you're also saying, the people that are holding you back, those are the aggravated people who like to settle.
Oh yeah, it's all down to settle, and that's settling. You know, if you're in McDonald's, I'm not saying you've got to be in a Michelin star restaurant. If you're in McDonald's and your fries are a little bit cool, just turn around and go, excuse me, I'm sorry, but these are cool. Can I have a fresh pack? Just have the standards to be able to demand that. You get a bad cocktail, send it back. Your food's not good. Right. You've got a table next to the toilet. You know, whatever happens, someone's 10 minutes late, say, hey, I'm sorry. I tend to conduct my meetings on time. Let's rebook this another time. Have those standards in you. And something funny will happen. I'll give you another little quick story. I had a client of mine, a coaching client, and he said that he loved wearing cool clothing, but when he went out with his mates, he kind of had like a wardrobe of like torn shit, crap, stained stuff. And he went, I don't want to go out with my, you know, fancy sneakers or my and I went, why not? And he went, but that's not what they do. And I said, be your standard, and two things will happen. One, you'll meet other people that share the same philosophy. And two, they will adapt or stick to their standards, and it'll give you that answer. Now, he went along to his mates at the bar, wore his sneakers, wore his shirt. It got a little bit of jabbing, you know? Now, that wasn't because he looked different, but because they were now uncomfortable. Okay?
Correct, exactly.
So they gave him a little bit of niggling. The following week, one of the guys had actually turned up with a different shirt. Okay.
Right. Now
then the other guy, now the other guy turned around and said, well, where do I get those sneakers? Yeah. And they went out sneaker shopping. He said, now, my boys, we're the best troop in that bar. And we have conversations that have now escalated to the standards that we now hold as the new normal.
Yeah. And like I've talked about this a few times on the podcast, is where a lot of times when you get into ribbing, like you said, people are ribbing you or giving you a hard time of your success. That's more about them than you. They don't want to change. They don't want to grow with you. And, you know, and we got to grow at our own pace. And if people want to follow us, fantastic. If not, that's their decision, not mine.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, man, Steve, I really love this. This is great. A lot of great stuff here, especially, you know, the people who are aggravated, but they're happy to settle. And as entrepreneurs, we can't settle until we get there. And I like what you said is we never get there because we get to a new level and we're still uncomfortable. We want something else again. And and that's why it's a high achieving entrepreneur growth mindset. And those are the people I like to be around. I also like the fact you said, if no one's laughing at your goal, it's not big enough. I love that. You know, that's how I started the engineering company and tactical breakthroughs and a bunch of other things. You know, you can't build an engineering company in a niche market. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'll show you. I think for the listeners, this is a huge one. Have people challenging you to up your game at all times. So challenging you, not just have kiss asses, not just have people seeing you doing great and wonderful. Like, that's what your parents are for. But I do like, and I got some people more and more, they're challenging me. Don't do that. Or why are you doing that? You can do more. And someone's there to tell you, you can do better. I think those are the people to be around.
Every time.
And, you know, I think what we can take away from today is, you know, take the time to dream, take the time to create so you can be able to set the audacious goal and don't and be comfortable to going stupid, you know, and build your own sand pit so that you can go for stupid and make sure the right people are in the sand pit to challenge you. And they got to follow your standards. And like you said, be your standard. So now I want the listeners to think about here is, you know, I know you've gone for stupid many times. List out the number of times you've gone for stupid, and you know, the list will be a lot bigger than you expect. So, Steve, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm very easy. We joke that I'm digital herpes. Once you find me, you'll never lose me. I'm Steve D. Sims everywhere you consume your media. So D in the middle for dashing, and there's only one M in Sims. SteveDSims.com. Steve D. Sims on Instagram, Twitter, anywhere else you like. So, and if you've heard this podcast, then just send me a message and go, hey, I heard you chatting with Andre, cool podcast, and let me know you did.
Yeah, good. And I'll put those in the show notes for it's easier for everyone, and links to your books too. Steve, I appreciate your time here today, and thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it.
And you know what, dude? I deserve to have this chat with you. Thank you.
Yeah, damn well do. Bye.
All right, cheers.